All right, guys. Well, then that's pretty much all we had for the agenda today. I am so happy to announce we have the public policy manager from the Alzheimer's Association here today. His name is Mr. Daniel Gaytan, and he is here to speak on the wonderful opportunity to be involved with advocacy outreach efforts, creating actual change with U.S. policymakers surrounding Alzheimer's. So he's doing some incredible work through this association. Let's all give a warm welcome to Mr. Daniel Gaytan. And then, Daniel, if it's all right with you, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Devin. I appreciate, again, the invite, and hello to everybody. Can you all hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up. All right, cool. So as Devin mentioned, I am the public policy manager for the Orange County Chapter's Alzheimer's Association. And I've been in this role for about 5 years now. And what I'm really working around is our advocacy efforts in the field throughout Orange County, parts of LA County, and parts of San Bernardino County as well. In total, I work in 11 congressional districts, organizing, helping to recruit, train, and engage our volunteers in these areas with their legislators. So the Alzheimer's Association itself has a variety of ways to volunteer. This is just one of those ways. But I'm sure maybe some of you have met my colleague Jody Wills in the past, who's done a presentation. We have a community education program. We have a development program where we're doing different fundraising events, walks, longest days, galas, things like that. We also have opportunities to volunteer through that. So today I'm going to talk about our public policy activities that we're leading here in the region. And the way really I'm going to share my screen here, if that's okay. I only have a few slides. I'm not a big fan of PowerPoints, but I do them, I guess, because that's what we do. Can you all see that okay?
Yeah, we can see it. Thanks, Daniel.
Okay, perfect. So, I work with the Alzheimer's Association. But there is another organization that the Alzheimer's Association works hand in hand with, which is called the Alzheimer's Impact Movement, also better known as AIM. And AIM is headquartered in Washington, D.C., and they are 100% focused on advancing public policy, both on a federal and a state level throughout the country. So anything public policy and advocacy related is funneled through AIM. So essentially, AIM is the advocacy arm of the Alzheimer's Association. And the reason that this needed to happen is, about a decade ago, the Alzheimer's Association made the decision that if they're going to have a greater impact in advancing policy and increasing research funding for this disease, they had to spend more time in public policy and advocacy, which is something that you could legally only spend so much time as a 501c3 organization. So this 501c4 organization, AIM, was established to be the leaders in public policy and better organize ourselves. So they spent all of their time and effort organizing us here in the field around public policy. And I have colleagues across the country that are covering this country from coast to coast as far as public policy, doing the exact same work that I'm doing. So what I'm doing is in 11 different congressional districts, as I mentioned, we are finding volunteers who are passionate about this cause for whatever reason. It could be because they themselves have been impacted by the disease, their loved ones, or they're just concerned about the direction that this disease is going. And we are seeking to do this across the country. So in all 435 congressional districts across the country, we're building what we call Alzheimer's congressional teams. And these teams are passionate for the cause and are committed to engaging with their legislator, with their member of Congress throughout the course of the year around a variety of activities. We have a holistic approach to advocacy. So we're not just requesting 2 or 3 meetings from an office every year and calling it a day. We're doing that, but we're also engaging them in social media. We're also engaging them around all of their events that they do for the community. We try to be present there. We try to have a footprint in print and online media as well, through letters to the editor and op-eds. Any way we can have an engagement with that office, we try to do so. And the idea is first and foremost, to build relationships with these members and their constituents, which are our volunteers. And it's through this relationship building, let me see here. It's through this relationship building that our priorities get communicated and ultimately they get acted upon. But I always tell volunteers, your main objective is to build a good relationship with your congressional office or your state office, depending on the outreach we're doing here. But generally, that is what we try to focus on, is if we can build a good relationship amongst volunteers who are constituents of these representatives, our priorities have a pretty good shot of becoming law. And as simple as that sound, that formula has worked out pretty well for us over the past decade. So as you can see here, our advocates engage in, obviously meetings are still a part of it. And once a year we go to Sacramento, as you can see in the top left here. And we also go to Washington, DC for our State Advocacy Day in Sacramento and our Advocacy Forum in Washington. Now, we haven't done these in the past 2 years because of the pandemic, but we are still doing these virtually. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But our advocates are really committed and passionate for this cause. A lot of our advocates, some of them are living with the disease and still want to do what they can. And they know very much so that the policies they're advocating for may not be helping them, but it may help millions of families across the country in the future. So it's really, just seeing what they do and working with them on a daily basis really motivates me to do this job. And it's really exciting. So it's a great opportunity to engage around policy and science, I guess, in this case. We engage on federal legislation and also state legislation. This week is a really important week. And I'll talk, I keep pinning at this, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But, our Alzheimer's congressional team approach is our federal advocacy program, where we're engaging with each of our members of Congress, but we're also doing state outreach. So here's a little bit of a mix of both. As you can see, there's some legislators included in this photo, both state and federal. And if you can hear some of the stories from these advocates, it's really inspiring. But I also have folks who don't have any connection to this disease whatsoever. And they also are great advocates because they understand the impact this disease has on our nation. In our country, Alzheimer's is the 6th leading cause of death in our country. And in the state, it's actually tied for the 3rd leading cause of death, which is really unfortunate. And these numbers keep on rising because there is currently no cure for Alzheimer's. There's no way of really preventing or reversing this disease at this point. Last year, the FDA, for the first time, approved a new medication to help slow the disease. But this is the first time that such a treatment has been made available. And even this treatment is not really a cure to end Alzheimer's. It's merely a way to slow down its progression. So we have a long way to go. But our advocates actually have a big reason why we're even at this stage where we are now. So as you can see, one of our priorities every single year has been increasing the amount of Alzheimer's research funding available through the National Institutes of Health, specifically the National Institute on Aging. That has been one of our key priorities every single year. And every single year for the past decade since the inception of AIM, we've been able to increase that funding. The last few years, we've had historic increases of Alzheimer's and dementia research funding increases. So it's been really exciting to be a part of and to see that, not only is it so inspiring to work with these folks, but it's also great to see the outcomes that we are experiencing because of their advocacy. And as I mentioned, it's simple activities that they're engaging in throughout the course of the year to help build that relationship, to ultimately help move the needle in the right direction. So we're very proud of that. So as I mentioned, this week is a really important week for us on the state advocacy side. We have our annual State Advocacy Day, which is something that we would usually do in person in Sacramento. But hopefully this is the last time we do it virtually. So on Thursday, we are having a short orientation and training for folks to educate them about our state priorities. This year, we're leading 3 pieces of legislation through the state legislature. So we will be educating everybody on Thursday about these, how to make a case for them, and what the basics about them are. And then on Friday, throughout the course of the day, we're going to meet with close to 100 different legislative offices around these particular proposals to ultimately try to get co-authors and start the process of moving them through the legislative process, hopefully into law. The last couple years, actually, I think every year since I've been here, we've passed some legislation either in Sacramento or in Congress. So I expect nothing less this year. You know, we have 3 shots at the goal this time. So hopefully at least one of those will become law. Last year, we had 1 bill, which we ran in Sacramento, which we got passed. In 2020, in Congress, I think we had 5 different legislative priorities that we were running, and all 5 of those actually got enacted into law, which is really exciting, especially considering, you know, the pandemic and our ability not to meet in person throughout the course of the year. And we still managed to approve everything that we wanted to get approved. So just goes to show the resiliency of our group and the fact that legislators have our attention now and are united on this issue, which you can't really say about a lot of issues, not only in California, but also in Congress. You know, there's a lot of bickering back and forth amongst both sides of the aisle, but at least on this issue, they have united and continue to pass meaningful legislation forward. So I'd like to invite you. It's too late, unfortunately, to join us for our Friday meetings, but if you'd like to come on Thursday and observe what that process is like, you're welcome to come join us. It's from 9 to 11 a.m. I'm going to send Devin all the information after this call. We'd love to have you. Moreover, though, if you're interested in that, maybe you can't attend Thursday, but you're interested in doing things throughout the course of the year, there's absolutely opportunities to do that as well. So that's all I have. I'm happy to take any questions from anybody regarding this or anything related to the Alzheimer's Association.
I've got a couple questions.
Sure.
And thank you so much, Daniel, by the way. And congratulations on the increasing funding that you guys have secured. That chart was pretty cool. It's pretty dramatic. And also the legislation getting passed. That's huge. Should I just get right into them?
Yeah.
The questions? Okay.
Sure.
So to join as a team member, if any of us here wanted to, what would be our first step? Would it be reaching out to you? Would it be showing up to the event that you just posted the ad for?
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send Devin a link to our advocacy application. So if you have any interest, fill out our advocacy application, which is very basic. Just pretty much tells me which legislative district you're in. And from there, I will reach out to you to schedule a time for us to talk a little bit further about what that entails and move you through the process. There's no real formal process. It's a process that I've invented just to ensure that folks have an adequate understanding of what this entails and adequate grounding in our policies. So it's something that I like to go through with all of our prospective volunteers, so I can help folks along through that process. And then once that is complete, we can start engaging them in their particular legislative district with the other team members there and with the legislative office as well. What's happening Thursday, you know, it's kind of coincidental right now that it's 2 days away, but anybody welcome to come to that, whether you're interested or not, if just in observing that event.
Okay. And then kind of tagging along with that, what might some requirements be or to join?
Yeah, so the requirement is that you have a passion for this particular movement. If you're gonna be a part of it, I guess typically we ask folks to be a part of it for a year, a calendar year's time at least, just so they can go through the entire process of what we're doing in advocacy. There is no weekly or monthly time requirement. It's kind of ad hoc as activities come forth, especially in the last couple of years with everything going virtual. But aside from that, there's really no requirement. If you have an interest in doing this and you want to do it, there's an opportunity here for you. And a lot of our advocates, they've never they've never done any lobbying or advocacy work in the past or anything like that, but they have a passion for this issue. So we give them an opportunity to make a difference, and we do that the same for anybody in the community.
That's great. And then I do have one more question.
Sure.
What might a typical day look like for a volunteer let's start with that.
Sure. So, I'm not going to say that every day you're going to be engaging in something, because that's not the case. But I can give you an example. So let's use this week, actually, since it's a great opportunity. We're going to have our legislative meetings on Friday, right? So folks will go to these meetings on Friday. They'll log in, they'll have their talking points or talk about why this is important to them. And that could be whatever, right? It could be because of their family members, because they themselves, or because they've seen the trends of this disease. And as a community member and taxpayer, you're very concerned about the trajectory. So we'll have those meetings. After that meeting, you'll go on social media. We're going to take a screenshot. If we were there in person, we'd take a nice picture next to the flag or something. So we'll post that photo on social media and say, hey, thank you for meeting with us. Really enjoyed this conversation and how to advance these pieces of legislation. The following week, there's opportunities for us to then write a letter to the editor and say, hey, I don't know if you all are familiar with letters to the editor, but similar to op-eds, just on a much shorter, not as long as an op-ed. And in these letters, we can say, hey, the Alzheimer's Association is leading this piece of legislation to help train officers to better engage with people with dementia, so that there's positive outcomes for both sides. And that's actually a piece of legislation we're running this year. I want to encourage my state senator, Senator Durazo, to co-author this piece. So the idea is we submit a few of these, and hopefully at least one of them gets published. And it's another way of engaging with that office, because they have media alerts on their name. So anytime there's anything written about them, that automatically comes to their office. So it's another way of engaging. Maybe a few weeks after that, we'll do a follow-up with the office. Say, hey, we had a great meeting in Sacramento a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you saw our letter to the editor, but we put this piece out there. Just wanted to follow up on the status of our co-authorship request. And depending on that, how that goes, you go from there. So this is how we build upon our advocacy as a holistic approach. We're using in-person plus virtual meetings, taking it to social media, taking it then to letters to the editor, and then rounding it back, connecting back with the same folks to see, hopefully we have gotten some momentum via social media. Hopefully we've gotten something printed into print media. And then hopefully they have seen all of that along the way. So it's not just one meeting that they have amongst 10 other meetings they had that day. It's that one meeting coupled with those other touch points in the following weeks or even months after that. And that's how ultimately we try to get this legislation enacted into law.
Okay, so it kind of sounds like a volunteer can come and join and be a part of the process, and at any, depending at what point in the process you're at, they could be being involved with anything from social media to reaching out maybe via email to state senators or something along these lines. It's kind
absolutely.
of a wide variety.
Just kind of depending on where we are in the process. And with state policy, we're right at the beginning. We just got these new pieces of legislation, so it's a great time to start that from the beginning. With federal policy, this is the second year of the two-year Congress. So we already have pre-existing priorities that we've been advocating for last year. So we'll be continuing to advocate for those. And We do have our federal advocacy forum that's going to be happening May 16th. So in a couple of months, we're going to be kind of emulating this process, and it's actually going to be in person. It's going to be scaled down a bit. So I'm still figuring out what this is going to look like. So I don't want to speak too much here out of turn, but we are going to be doing a national forum where we do the same thing around our federal priorities.
Very cool. Thank you so much. I know I'm going to process all of this information, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you for your insightful questions. That's great.
I yield my time. I had a quick question involving, let's say, time commitments. So let's say I'm someone, I'm busy with school, I'm busy with this, I'm busy with work, whatever it is. Is this something where it's like you can you can volunteer for, is it like a set amount of time that you're looking for from your volunteers each week or monthly? Or is it something that it's like you work on how much ever you want to put into it?
Yeah, it's the latter. So whatever you're able to put into it, we have volunteers that dedicate a lot of hours over the course of the month. And we have some volunteers that are not able to do that. So essentially, that's where that communication between myself and the advocate comes into play. When we onboard you, we figure out what your time commitment is. And it's not, in May, I need 10 hours from everybody. It's not like that. In May, I need these different activities completed. How can we disperse that amongst the team? And based on what your skills are and what your interests are, we help align you with those activities that are most interesting to you if you have time constraints. Now, if you're kind of open for all of it, we welcome you to help us with all of it, but most folks are not. Most folks that I work with go to school or go have a full-time job or are even full-time caregivers and are still wanting to make a difference through this program. So I work with folks at the level that they are if they want to get involved so that they can share their stories. Because at the end of the day, ultimately, when they are in a meeting in front of a legislator and they get to tell their personal story about how this has impacted them, well, that's a story that the legislator, unless they've been through it themselves, they don't really understand. And the best folks to tell those stories are their constituents. So, and again, it could be whatever your reason for getting involved, they appreciate hearing from their constituents around a variety of issues.
Great. Wow. Thank you so much for the answer. That made a lot of sense.
Sure.
And then I see we have technically, so sorry, I don't mean to want to cut you off, but our meeting time is supposed to end in 1 minute. Of course, we can always run over a little bit if we need to. I was wondering if anyone else had like 1 or 2 more questions before we signed out of here for Daniel. No questions? Perfect. All right.
From Sydney, so I think that's a good job. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so let's all a virtual clap for Daniel. Thank you so much, Dan. Seriously, awesome speech. Really appreciate you speaking to us and teaching us about how we can get involved in more things outside of what we're used to, especially being students here at school where it's like you think there's a certain path that we need to align ourselves with, but there's this world outside with policymakers and advocacy, volunteering our time to certain things that we find a tangible change, what we sort of spoke about before. So I can't tell you how much we appreciate you being here and talking about the way you did. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all for the time. And as I mentioned, I'll shoot you the information and feel free to disperse it amongst the members. And I'm here to talk more about this for anybody who's interested.
Love it. Thank you, Daniel. I know I'll be signing up for sure. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a while, and this is exactly the cause I want to do it with. So I'll be looking out for your email, and then I'll disperse that information out to all you guys, all of our members, and we will get that ball rolling. I'm so excited. But I'm going to go ahead and clean this meeting and make sure that we're good to go. So our meeting was adjourned today. Oh, actually, before I adjourn it, sorry, Maddie, I don't mean to. We have our next meeting, like I said, guys, it's on March 15th. So that will be coming up. And like I said, it's probably going to be moved to the Garrison Honor Center in person. So if you guys can make it, please go ahead and come into the Honor Center, say what's up, come into our meeting. If not, we'll have the virtual option for you as well. But that is all for us here today. So our meeting is adjourned at 5:01 p.m. Thank you, Maddie. And that is it. Again, thank you so much, Daniel, for being here. Really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone else who was able to attend the meeting today and just be a part of the community. Really appreciate all of you, very sincerely. But we are all good to go. So everyone enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. And if you guys have any more questions, I will, Daniel, is it all right if I include your email in the communications on our side so that way people can reach you directly if they need to?
Yeah, please do.
Awesome, perfect. So if you guys have any more questions, of course, we'll be able to email Daniel directly. I'll leave that here in the agenda, but you guys are all set. Thank you so much again. Love to you all. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Everyone enjoy the rest of your day. See ya. See you, Sydney. Bye, Nancy. Bye, advisors. Bye, guys.